Hey, I gotta look up today's topic. Let's rock. Hello, welcome everybody. This is Career Lab Wednesday. I am your host, George Miller, and I'm excited to be with you today. We've got a lot going on, and I'm wanting to talk with you today about what you love in your career, doing what you love. And how does that look? So, before we dive any deeper into that, I want to say the few ways that you can jump in here. So, I love it when I get to talk with you directly. If you want to, you can jump in directly on this Zoom link and I can answer your questions and talk with you directly that way. If that doesn't work, if you are watching on YouTube or on LinkedIn, and you have questions, and you want to get those to me, go ahead and type them into the comment section. Jane will get those over to me and I'll do my best to answer those questions. So, um, if you've listened in before, you know that I will tie everything back most of the time to social and emotional intelligence. As we develop in our careers, it's increasingly important for us to be able to connect first with ourselves, emotional intelligence, to be able to connect deeper with others, social intelligence. And so many of the challenges that we have um, can be addressed by a deeper understanding of ourselves and a deeper understanding of others. And so that is really my expertise and where I will tend to go with you. Sometimes there's simply logistical questions. Help with, what's the most effective way to be with algorithms online and how to respond to ads and things like that. I can help you some there. And also sometimes people listening in are able to support with more of the logistical things. So, well, now let's talk about today's topic of doing what you love and how this works in your career. So you may have heard of things like, follow your passion, live, only do what you want that makes you happy. If you love what you do, it's not work, it's play. So those are nice tropes. And I think that there's validity to a lot of that. However, if I'm only doing what I love, um, consider that what I love may be extremely limited. And so now we bring in what you've heard me talk about before, the idea of authenticity as the existentialists saw it, which was true to who I can become. So if I'm only doing what I love as a static, set thing, doing what I love, well, that's a very limited thing. And in fact, I don't think that that brings happiness. I know personally, for me, it doesn't. And the research shows that that is not what happiness is about. Happiness is about learning and growing. So now we look at, okay, so what is it in a career that I could develop myself in? What are things that I'm good at, gifts that I have that I want to develop? Because just simply that idea of doing what makes me happy, as we usually think about it, is a limited idea. So there more goes into doing what you love in your career than at first glance. So then it's an important step to take to engage, to follow up on the things that you love about. that you're interested in, and to test that out. Um, Too often we people that I speak with and who are working in their career and looking for what they want to do, so often they're um, looking for the perfect fit. And it's not, I don't know that I would say the perfect fit doesn't exist, but a good strategy is not to only look for it. We have to try things out. We have to test things out. And I think it's more accurate to say that I create the perfect fit. So if there's a organization that I think is in alignment with what I want to be doing, then it's going to be the relationship, the partnership that I establish with the people on that team, in that company, that becomes the perfect fit. I'm going to create the perfect fit. It's not like it's just out there waiting for me to slide into it. Sometimes we have that experience when it's like we're going for something and it's like, oh my gosh, what a perfect fit. And that's wonderful. But it can be I think harmful to not recognize all of the activity that went into positioning myself for that perfect fit. And again, a lot of the people I talk to who are looking to do what they love in their career are sitting back more than is really going to be helpful to them. And so being prepared to make mistakes as you're moving towards what you want is going to be a better strategy a lot of the time than sitting back and waiting for the right thing to fall into your lap. It just doesn't happen. Or if it does, it's so rare that I wouldn't count on it. So then I think an often overlooked thing around doing what you love is really getting a good sense of what your gifts are. One of the things that clients say again and again to me is that they get one of the most helpful things they get is feedback from me about them and what I see their gifts as. And when that happens, it's an affirming thing for somebody. And then we're not good at seeing ourselves. Most human beings are not good at seeing how they show up in the world. So getting that feedback from other people is a very important thing because you can then double down, triple down, quadruple down on what you're already good at. And if you don't know what you're already good at, you don't know how to take advantage of that, how to really develop your gifts. So, in terms of doing what you love, getting feedback from people, and I can talk personally about this. I People give me feedback about what my gifts are, and I tend to push it away. I tend to downplay it. I had this happen the other day. I was, going in the lake like I do, and another cold water swimmer gave me a compliment about like, wow, like you're really dedicated in this, and you kind of like, I mean, hold the line of what's possible in, at least here in Chicago. And so that that felt great to hear. But in that moment, I was uncomfortable. I was embarrassed, and all kinds of beliefs about like, oh, act humble, whatever, things from the past kind of came in, and I downplayed it. And I was like, well, it's also practice. But I didn't say what it like how good that made me feel. And that right there was a way that I, in that moment, um, was not following what I love, was not following my passion, was not leaning into that. And so there's going to be all kinds of moments like this that we each have. But I'm well trained. I have lots of training in taking feedback and coaching. And a client who was with me at the time actually saw the interaction, was like, "What was up with that?" That's the kind of that's the kind of stuff that you tell me not to do, and you just did it. And I was like, "Oh, you're right." So I have I have a lot of support and training in taking in feedback and realigning with my gifts and doing the things that I love. And so I was able to go back in that interaction and say, "Hey, thank you for the compliment. It really means a lot." And so to be aware of what your gifts are, to be aware of what my gifts are, so that I can keep focusing on that, going back to it, saying, "Okay, yes, here's my next step in developing myself. I don't need to be all of the other things that there are to be in the world. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to be the best me I can be. And it's up to me to choose the meaningful risks in my career, to move towards the things that I'm passionate, that I love." But again, I want to point out that this is not a thing of sitting back and waiting for something that I love to fall in my lap. It's very much about reaching out, connecting with people, getting feedback about your gifts, and then doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on developing your gifts, developing the things that you care about. And you know it feels, you feel joy when you're on this. And you'll feel all the other feelings too, fear, hurt, anger, sadness. But you'll know increasingly that you're doing the thing that is important to you. And you want to start small. Start with lots of little interactions because that's doable. What are the moment to moment interactions that you can be shifting? One client I have was sharing about how in doing what he loves he likes fancy things and he likes celebrating and he likes to invite. So he is celebrating some things in some of the successes he's had, and he noticed that he would feel guilty. And guilt, by the way, is anger, hurt, and fear usually. So turning the anger back in on myself, like, oh, I shouldn't be wanting this wonderful thing. I shouldn't be wanting um, this fancy dinner at a restaurant to celebrate a success I had, because I should, whatever. To catch that kind of thing. And what he did instead was say, wait a minute, no, I worked really hard for this. And in fact, I'm going to share this moment with more people. I'm going to tell people about the success that I'm having. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy the fact that my friends are celebrating and congratulating me. So he is leaning into what is really important to him, what matters to him, and what he's passionate about. And in doing so, he's recognizing limiting beliefs and things that he has from his childhood or whatever about how he should how wanting too much is bad, how going over the top with celebration is just unnecessary. You don't need to do that. And he's finding out, in fact, that it actually just brings more success, brings more of the positive attention that he wants. And as he does this, he's actually able to be a greater influence in the world. He's able to positively impact on a greater scale. than if he were to hold his gifts back. So it starts, you can see this with your interactions. So the things that you love, the things that you're passionate about, your gifts, the things that you are good at and care about, accentuate those in your interactions with your friends, family, and coworkers. Accentuate the stuff that you're already good at. And this will create momentum for you. It will help people know you better. And for me personally, it gives me more energy for the things I'm not good at, like accounting. It actually gives me more energy to work through some of the challenging things that I'm working on. So that's my 2 cents about doing what you love in your career. And I hope that's helpful. Again, a key thing in all of this is communication, is how you're interacting with people. So wonderful. Good to have you joining in. And I see a message here. Great. Okay, Eric has a question, has a topic. Eric, yeah, jump on in.
Yeah. So I guess kind of the summarize it is I feel disconnected from the rest of the team that I work with by the nature of the role that I'm in and trying to figure out how to overcome that disconnection feeling.
So let's break it down a little more. So disconnection feeling, what are the core feelings there? Fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy.
Um, I guess probably fear more than anything. So I guess maybe to give a brief background, I think you pretty well know, but basically I plan for the supply of products for our sister company. So what that means is, everything I'm planning production for is transferred over to the sister company once it's produced, and they are handling sales orders for it, product allocation, forecasting, whatever. I'm just there to basically make sure it's produced on the right day and the right SKUs and the right amount. So I nothing I work with is sold by the company I work for. So, like today we have basically a KPI board meeting, we'll say. And everyone's talking about all these things, and then none of it really applies to me directly for the most part because nothing I plan for work on is sold by the company I work for, basically. So I feel fear that I'm left out because my role is on such an island compared to everyone else's role.
Okay. This is great. Thank you for bringing this question in. So, well, let's run it through the lens of today's topic. What are you good at?
Oh, um, you know, data analysis, problem solving, kind of that continuous improvement mindset. I say supply chain management, probably in general, kind of what I study. If we're talking about those kind of topics.
Is that something that would be useful to them?
Yeah, I mean, I I think I had told you this, but they gave me additional responsibility in the form of additional of these partner products to work on or plan for. So with that addition, I basically plan for um, basically every partner product that we make except for one group. So 90+% of that falls under my umbrella. So I think they they would value that if they since they're giving me that additional responsibility.
Okay. Another question, are you able to meet with anybody one-to-one beforehand?
Um, well, yeah. So I meet with my manager basically every other week. I don't know if it's I think it's every other week. So like some months it might be three times a month versus twice for a one-on-one. Um, where it's kind of the traditional, probably not so productive for growth type setup where basically giving her more kind of summarized updates on each of the product groups I work with, um, and highlight any pressing issues that might need greater attention than what I can work with. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah. Well, that one part of it.
Okay.
Um, so this KPI meeting, and how often does this happen?
This happens once a week, every week.
Okay, and so every week you've already been in this meeting.
Yeah, it's a group, a team meeting basically where there's a series of KPIs that they have for our group basically that we basically review the prior week's performance and say, okay, did we meet the metric that we, or did we meet the uh, standard goal for that week, or we didn't? If we did, what did we do to do that? If we didn't, what do we need to work on to improve or to meet that goal standard? Um, and again, that's once a week, every week.
Okay. And you are in this meeting as an outsider because you don't work directly in this company.
Well, so I'm employed by, I mean, I'm a full time employee, but pretty much all the work I do is for products that are transferred to our sister company. There's nothing that I work for or that I plan for that our company makes and then sells to an end customer.
What are the unique insights that your position gives you?
Um, are unique with respect to kind of what benefit the company I work for could get out of it, in essence.
Well, so one of the things that I've noticed in um, group dynamics is so there's these trainings, these leadership trainings that we do um, with the human emergence group. And let's say that there's a group of six people who all kind of know each other, who maybe have like taken classes together.
Right.
And then there's one new person. What tends to happen is that the there's already an established system, and
Right. Right. Right.
all systems are flawed. As I just assume that, there's always ways to improve systems.
Right.
And so the established system, then when the new person comes into that system, it highlights all of the flaws.
All right. Yeah, I get what you're trying to get at.
So I
Uh,
wonder if by way of you being an outsider, if you don't actually have um now it's uncomfortable. Like I totally get that you would be feeling fear. But
right.
I think exploring this fear deeper might be really helpful. Like say more about what you're afraid of.
Uh, just kind of being left out, I guess. That especially for visibility for whatever. I kind of not necessarily benched per se, but I'm kind of just over on my own thing, doing my own thing because it it's one of those things that we're, I wouldn't say we're forced to do, but we're kind of agreeing to do because we have the assets still under our umbrella, largely because the plants, well, one plant is just two
Oh,
plants.
I lost you for a second.
Oh, can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. So basically, even though all the plants I work with, they produce both the company I work for products, company A products, and then partner company products. Um, so I guess the fear is that I'm kind of just, again, not benched or cast aside per se, but kind of forgotten about. Let's put it that way.
So I think that's a valid fear. And what's your fear? So how would you use that fear to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Um, I've been trying to kind of highlight or kind of promote myself more. Like one of the product groups I've taken on recently, that I've been actually training with my manager on because she used to be the owner of. Uh, I created kind of this Excel workflow to where it kind of semi-automated part of a truck schedule update that would have to be done. So I remember, I don't remember, I don't know if it was in our, I think it was in our 101 that I brought up, hey, I wanted to show you this kind of Excel work I had done to where, now instead of having to manually calculate and update this truck schedule for the plant, all you'd have to do is just change the main day by day truck schedule and it will automatically update everything. So then all you have to do is copy and paste for the plant. So I've been trying to like highlight, be more aggressive in highlighting, even if it's like minor accomplishments, so to speak, highlighting those more frequently than I would to my manager, especially because she's probably the one who, at least out of the rest of the group, probably really understands the relationship, the setup between us and the partner company.
Okay. How, how's that going?
It's been good. Um, again, we only meet, twice a month, right? So there's not, and even as a team meeting, uh, I try not to self promote too much there because that's supposed to be kind of like a round table. So really, I only have, at least formally, a couple times a month to kind of do that kind of thing without
Well,
necessarily going out of my way. As
yeah,
imagine you're,
but now in that weekly meeting, I mean, how long's the meeting?
it's only a half hour, and with that, the problem there is a lot of the stuff they're talking about. It's very high level in the sense of we have an inventory target level of this percent for this overarching product group, which is usually company A products. Or we have focus on late shipments and how much of that is, again, that's for company A sold products because we're transferring, for the products I work for, they transfer over to our partner company and then that's their problem for everything else. Um,
So in that half an hour meeting, do you talk at all?
a little bit only because I update uh, quasi manually. It's a mixture of kind of auto generated Excel stuff, and then I'm updating an Excel report and then taking some of the values into another Excel workbook that updates graphs. But I talk like just a little bit to basically say, here's how the two metrics that I monitor uh, looked like this week. Were they red green? I'm not really.
Do you ever have any questions in that meeting? Like things that you don't understand?
Um, I don't know. I've not really thought about it because if I'm being brutally honest, I kind of zone out for most of it. Because again, I know that's probably horrible to say, but I mean, a lot of it is just it for what I plan for, what I do. it doesn't affect me. I keep like a loose attention to it, but there's a lot of stuff where it's like, well, I don't worry about inventory target levels because all my inventory basically disappears every night. I'm not worried about late shipments because I don't have late shipments. Uh, this and that, and this and that. So I probably need to be better focused on that. So that way, if there is something, I can at least participate that way and ask a question or two, even if it's a relatively simple quote unquote
How
question.
many people are in the meeting?
Um, 8 total. So there's me, the 5 other planners, my coworkers, my manager who leads the meeting, and then her boss, supply chain director, who kind of it's a standing meeting, stands in kind of on the background to provide clarification on something or answer any questions that a coworker might have or my manager might have at that moment. So that's who all attends this meeting every week.
And in the meeting, is it mostly one or two people talking?
Yeah, usually they each one of us has a metric or a metrics or a metrics in case me too that you're basically responsible for basically running the reports and updating the charts on the whiteboard that we have with the latest info, and then providing a clarification like you know we were red this week because of we were red on late shipments this week because we had a string of industrial products that we couldn't produce. So that's why we're red this week, kind of that kind of gist. So usually it's just one or two people talking at a time.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that, well, and the purpose of the meeting is to keep things on track, I assume.
Yeah, it's basically to say, are we keeping in line with the KPIs that we have and the standards for each of those KPIs? Are we keeping in line with those? Great. If not, what do we need to do to correct that?
And how much do you tend to be on your KPIs? Be on target?
Um, but let me, I guess, maybe provide some clarification. So it's not necessarily my KPIs. Really, all I'm doing for them is basically just updating an Excel spreadsheet. Um, there's not
But
a whole lot
I
of
mean, is the group overall, is the two companies, do they tend to hit the target KPIs?
well, and then so this is just for our group, just for the planning group itself. It's not company wide. It's just focused on KPIs for our specific, basically team of 6 plus my manager. That's all the KPIs that are focused on.
And do you tend to hit them?
Yeah, generally we've been pretty on target with them. It's been kind of ugly lately, but a lot of that has been stuff out of our control, like the weather really impacted us. Um, you know, trying to keep warm sugar syrup or keep sugar syrup warm in freezing temperatures is rather difficult, if you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as thanks for I'm getting more and more of a picture of it. Um, what do you think you could do differently going forward?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Um, I think going with the kind of more aggressive self promotion is probably at least a good baby step. Um, and I think potentially being more aggressive in preventative measures that or preventative steps to issues that could crop up from the partner company on whatever you'd want to come up with. I think those two things are probably baby steps to kind
Okay.
of help. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so cool. So you see things well enough to know that there's likely issues coming down the line. A recommendation I would make is that you ask more questions.
gotcha.
That you ask instead of saying what you see the problem as, especially because you're kind of an outsider, use your ignorance or your supposed ignorance to your advantage. And
Okay,
your questions will give you more power, will give you more leverage. Help me understand how da 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 da.
yeah, yeah,
And the other thing too is that you can be a leader in this way in igniting other people in the room to engage more.
hmm,
Because you just described, so I lead groups, and the my least favorite thing is when like only one person's talking.
hmm,
Like, and so if there's like back and forth communication and then somebody else shares a question or a thought about an issue, then it's like, okay, great. We now have everybody's mind at work. We're actually accessing the potential that we have in the room. And so if my hunch is that a lot of the details and stuff that you could actually get through that faster, and that there's people kind of just filling the space because it's a half-hour meeting, and a lot of people are just waiting for it to be over.
yeah. Well, I think a big part of there's dialogue that usually happens in this meeting, right? But a lot of it is focused on it's really all around products that company A that I work for makes and sells direct. Again, versus my stuff where we're making it, but then it basically transfers over to our sister company and they take care of basically everything else. Uh,
So
but I think,
you want to pay close attention to see, to notice patterns and notice things that notice the dynamics of that group.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's kind of be try to, even though it's easy to do what I'm currently doing, kind of more disassociation is to kind of be more engaged and, at least even though I'm not directly, or maybe not even directly, but I'm not planning really involved with any of those other products to at least try to be a part of the discussion in some way, shape, or form, whether that's questions or making comments. Well, maybe not making comments, probably more questions than anything, but yeah, posing questions to try to come at it from another angle that maybe they wouldn't think of because I'm that far apart from what they do.
Yeah. Yep. And you'll have unique insights to things, and or a unique, maybe not even insight, but like unique questions that they wouldn't think of because that you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right, 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 right.
And my hunch too now, so we talk about fear, hurt, anger, and my other hunch is that you feel hurt because you are isolated.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty. I mean, I'm not like down in the dumps every day at my desk, but it does it does definitely kind of sting to like have all that discussion going around you and you feel like you can't participate because you know what I do is so different from kind of that traditional well, we're making it and the company is selling it, so there's a bunch there's all this other stuff that well I don't necessarily have responsibility for, so there's less on my plate from that perspective. There's also kind of feels like less involvement. with the actual company I'm working for.
So that right there is a significant challenge for you to be clear about, which is that
Yeah,
when you're in that meeting, it's like a half an hour of feeling hurt. And if you're able to, part of why you disengage is to avoid that discomfort. That's part
right,
of why
right.
you zone out. So if you can make a game of staying present with the discomfort, just it's like just picture it like you're going to the gym or something.
Hmm.
And for me, it's ice water. When I'm in that kind of a situation, I literally just picture that I'm like in Lake Michigan sitting in ice.
Right, right,
And then the pain can actually become affirming and start highlighting things for me and providing ways, because then I'll notice, oh, whoa, that other person I think is feeling hurt. I wonder if they're feeling hurt about this. Oh, that
right,
isn't that interesting. And then I start to be able to ask questions that the, the that are usually a little uncomfortable for the group, but helpful.
right, 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 right.
You, so you got your strategy for this?
Yeah, I think I've got a better uh, plan in place than what I had previously.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool. I'm looking forward to hearing about this. Because this is like um for you to get a different sense of yourself and perspective using an uncomfortable environment. And so I'm excited to see what you create out of this. So
Yeah,
keep
it should be good. Yeah, I'll update you next week if I what I have.
okay. Cool. Sweet. Thank you, Eric.
All right, thank you. I gotta hop off here.
You bet. You bet. All right. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Eric, for that. I want everybody to be thinking about how that applies to you. So discomfort, what are the feelings that you have in the meetings that you're in, and how staying with the fear and the hurt rather than zoning out to avoid the pain, and to see what the insights are that you get as you stay with the discomfort longer. Um, that tends to be a good strategy. Sometimes that will lead to, I'm thinking about one client right now, is staying more and more at the discomfort will lead to you actually saying, oh, you know what, this whole thing isn't working and my discomfort is telling me I need to get out. That could be the case too, but for what Eric's doing now, that's I suspect he's going to see, um, well, who knows? We'll find out. So right there, back to the topic of your passion of doing what you love at work. Right there, Eric's got a example of how he's good at data analysis. He can focus on that gift, and if he can stay now present with himself while he's feeling the discomfort of feeling like an outsider in the group, but if he can now stay in there, focus on his gift of analysis, I bet he's going to have some good questions. I bet he's going to be more of an asset to that group. And he will be leaning into doing more of what he loves and using his gifts by doing that. So again, if we were to, if to do what you love, if I were to say, Eric, it doesn't sound like you love being in that meeting, don't go to that meeting. Well, it's not that's a very short term solution. Uh, and he's not going to do that because he doesn't want to lose his job. But um, doing what you love comes with more of doing what helps you develop, doing what helps you develop moment by moment, in meetings and in interactions is the thing that guides you to what you're doing with your overall career. So that's today's bit. Now, I'm going to be signing off here soon. I'm going to check out a venue for um, doing some in-person things. So I want to share in closing, tomorrow evening, I'm doing a live stream podcast with Day, somebody who's gone into ice water with me a few times. I'm going to be doing more and more of this podcast because I'm following what I love, and I'm interviewing people who have a relationship with the cold or Chicago winters or Lake Michigan in the winter in some kind of unique way. And that's the thrust of it, is just this exploration of wintertime, exploration of Chicago winters. So I'll go ahead and throw that into the chat. I'll share that link for the event tomorrow night. You'll find it on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And I'll be live streaming that live from Hairpin Art Center in Logan Square, Chicago. And then if you're listening in and you've got career-related questions, you can go ahead and set up a 15-minute call with me. I'm happy to talk with you one-to-one, get to know you a little bit in that time, see if I can help. And if not, uh, you know, then it may be that we want to spend more time together, or I can point you in a more helpful direction. But I'm happy to meet with you for 15 minutes and see if we're a good fit. And then let's get ready for next week. I'm excited for next week's topic, and I will be back. I'm here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. And again, all questions career related are welcome. You don't have to try to make it fit with the topic. That's my job. I'll make it do that. And I look forward to being with you. Take care.